Thanks, everyone. I am actually going to tell a road trip story tonight. And because we're in Delaware County, I'm going to tell Delaware County road trips tonight. I grew up here in Delaware County, so I'm going to tell you some stories about growing up here and what I learned from those trips. So when we first learned to walk, right, we walk in the house, and then we make our way out to the backyard, and then eventually make ourselves to the end of the driveway. And there's a road stretching out in both directions, and it's intimidating, and it's scary, and it's big, and we were told to be scared. We learned to be a little bit cautious because we were told from an early age we were not allowed to cross McDade Boulevard by ourselves. So we knew there were scary things in this world, and we had to figure that out over time. I was too young to understand the manifestation of evil, what it might look like, but I pictured it all hanging out at the McDade Mall, right, daily. But what I learned is it wasn't the evil I needed to look out for. So a little while after that, we took a walking trip. My mother led my brother and I to the Holmes Market to buy some groceries we needed. And we were walking there, and it was really cold. In fact, it was freezing. I know it was freezing because we stopped at the creek to look at the frozen water. And I know it was freezing because I put my tongue on the steel pipe to look at the water. And then it was time to go. My mother said, "Come on, boys." And my tongue was stuck to the railing. And my mother very carefully, very lovingly reached down and grabbed me by the back of the hair and pulled my head and maintained to save, I don't know, 97% of my tongue or something like that. She kept most of it on there. But the lesson I learned from that is it's not just about the scary things in the world. There are consequences for your actions, right? And as you go into the world, you have to understand what your actions are and plan accordingly, because there will be results. We, as kids, walked to grade school together, right? There's 7 of us in my family. And we'd all leave together in the morning. We'd all leave together after lunch. But coming home at lunchtime and coming home after school depended on where your classroom was and how quickly your teacher dismissed you. So we might be a block apart, one in front, one behind, some on this side of the street, some on that side of the street. And what I learned from that is even when you're alone with family, you're never really alone, right? There's always people around me. I always felt safe no matter where we were on the road there. As we got a little bit older, we'd walk every day to the swim club. We'd spend our whole summer. You walk there in the morning, you come home at dinner time, you probably go back at nighttime until it closes again. But as I got older, you got to stretch out a little bit. You got to see more of the world. And I learned the joy of Wacky Wednesday. And Wacky Wednesday was, on Wednesdays, you could go to Putt-Putt in Clifton Heights and play mini golf all day long for some wacky low price that I don't recall. But it was a much longer walk. But I would meet my friend John Stanek and Joe Natolsky, and we'd spend the hour walking up there and golfing all day long and then walking back home at the end of the day. And what I learned from that is the world's a lot bigger than you ever imagined when you're a kid, right? In fact, to get to Putt-Putt, you had to walk by the bazaar of all nations, right? Not just all nations. I thought I'd see llamas and camels tied up to a tether somewhere. I never saw it. It was always disappointing, but it was a big world, and you started to understand that, right? Soon after that, I got my first job. I delivered the Bulletin, and then I delivered the Inquirer. I worked as a dishwasher. I worked as a lifeguard. And a lot of those jobs I walked to or ran to, because around the same time I turned into a competitive runner, and running to work was another way to get a walkout in. So we covered a lot of miles running and walking back then. And what I learned from those experiences is that hard work pays, right? Usually minimum wage, but it pays. And that was okay. When it came time for high school, 2 stories around that. And the first one is about getting to high school itself. And I told my sister, she started panic. There is a SEPTA bus involved. She's afraid of buses, SEPTA buses in particular. But we took a bus every day to Catholic high school from the Frontier Saloon on Route 420. A bunch of Catholic school kids, the girls in their uniforms, the boys in their suits and ties, standing out in front of a bar at 7:45 in the morning and watching the night crew come in for a couple pops before they went home, right? And on one particular day, it was a snow day, and they didn't cancel school, they delayed it. And with the SEPTA buses, the rule was you still showed up at the bus stop at the same time, right? You had to wait there, and hopefully it would get there close enough to the time and get you to school early or get you to school at all. And one particular snowstorm, the bus wasn't coming, and it was a long, long time. And my brother Dennis got this great idea, he and his friend Walter. And they turned to me and my friend Greg and said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wait till we can see the bus. And at that point, we're all going to walk away like we didn't see the bus and walk to school. That way we'll get credit for being there, and we won't get there till the very end of the day. And when the bus came into view, we all started walking, and people started saying, hey, hey, and my brother kept saying, don't turn around, don't turn around, don't turn. And we walked all the way to school and had snowball fights and had fun. And at one point, a woman offered us $5 each to shovel her driveway. And we thought, well, what kind of Catholic school students would we be if we didn't help someone in need, right? So we stopped and we shoveled her driveway for her. We showed up with around 20 minutes left, wet, red in the face, smiles on our faces, and my brother said, we're here. And they looked at us like we were crazy. Said, what? He said, our bus never came, so we walked because we wanted to be at school today. And they said, your bus? And so we told them the bus, and they said, yeah, it came. And they said, well, we waited until 9:50. It wasn't there, and they realized we weren't kidding, right? So what I learned from that is it's all right to goof off every once in a while. We ditched school. No one got hurt. No one got in trouble, right? I don't think, I might be a little dumber because of it, but not too much, right? And the last story I want to tell is also a high school story. On my first day of high school, I met a girl who I thought was amazingly beautiful. And by senior year, I'd finally won her graces a little bit. And I was going over to her house one Friday night. And my brother Brian dropped me off there. And she lived a block off of Providence Road in Alden. And I sat for a couple hours trying to impress her, and she sat for a couple hours trying to pretend it worked. And when it came time to go, she was walking me back down to Providence Road, and I planned just to run home, right? That's how I was going to get home, and that was not a big deal for me. And as we were walking, I'm pretty sure this is what happened, but it all kind of, I never quite figured it out all the way. But as we were walking, she started explaining to me why it would never work between us. And she started giving me the details of this, and we just turned on a Providence Road, and she was explaining this to me, and she stopped, and she kissed me very sincerely in the middle of that speech. And then she turned, and she shrugged her shoulders, and I couldn't tell if that meant, you are so witty I couldn't help doing that, or that's all you're ever going to get out of me. And then she pointed me in the right direction, and I started running home. And I never ran better or faster than I did that night. And I'm running down Providence Road, and I'm thinking there's something meaningful in it. Providence is involved here, right? This is all very good. And then I turned onto South Avenue, and I think things started going south in my own mind. And I realized what really had just happened back there a couple miles ago. And I was all right with that. And I got to thinking, if I could only get a girl to stand at the starting line of every race and explain to me all the reasons why it would never work between us, and then kiss me sincerely right before they shot the gun, I'd be an Olympian. But what I learned from that event is life doesn't always make sense, but sometimes you just got to run with it. Thank you all very much.